We interrupt this program to bring you this report. The Forever Guitar Pick Company responded after seeing a YouTuber have an ear orgasm after using an elongated vintage penny as a guitar pick. And the result is the Humbucker Helper. Elongated vintage penny, but now smooth to give you rocking speed and tone. Very limited quantities, so click below. We now return you to your program.
Hey y'all, it's Shed Post Friday.
Garbage Day!
Huh?
No!
Hello, good people, and furries too. Brad the Guitologist here, and it is time for Shitpost Friday. As always, when there's a sad story on Shitpost Friday, I like to get it out of the way up front, and this week we've just learned actually that Peter Tork of the Monkees has passed away. He was the bass player and keyboardist for that band. Monkees were known as, I think if they weren't the first, they were one of the first ever boy bands that were actually put together by the record label itself. What they did was they held auditions and they tried to select the guys who had looks over, talent, and if they could, but they ended up getting a few guys that could actually play their instruments, and eventually, I think after their first album, they started actually playing their instruments, both live and in the studio, started writing their own stuff, and they actually surprised a lot of people with the amount of talent that they had, and just really sad that Peter Tork is now gone from us. He was preceded in death by Davy Jones, who of course was the singer of the band, who passed away back in 2012, also in February. So condolences to his family, and rest in peace, Peter Tork. Next up in the news, I don't know if you saw this yet or not, but apparently Motley Crue is jumping on the Biopic, I say Biopic, not Biopic, bandwagon. Of course, we learned a week or two ago that now they're coming out with one for David Bowie. Somebody's producing one for Elton John. See, well, of course, we've already done the Queen Bohemian Rhapsody one. But now Motley Crue is getting in on the act. And this one actually, I think, promises to be one of the most interesting, because anybody who saw the Motley Crue Behind the Music will understand why there's enough there to make a movie about that band. Just lots of hijinks, lots of drug use, lots of crazy throwing crap out of windows at hotels. And, if you haven't seen the trailer yet, definitely at least check out the trailer. This is going to be on Netflix starting next month, and is probably the only reason I'm going to keep my Netflix account for another month. I was actually just about to drop Netflix just because they've raised their prices again, and I don't know, I don't really watch all that much on there, and it seems like every time I go on Netflix anymore, there isn't a whole lot to choose from that I really, think I would enjoy. But this definitely might be worth sticking around for. It's called The Dirt, but yeah, check out the trailer.
I had managed the Scorpions, Bon Jovi, Skid Row, Kiss, but I had never been through what Motley Crue put me through.
I am sick and tired of not having any fun.
Everything's upside down and flip-flopping. Motley Crue, no strangers to controversy.
Vince Neil was charged with vehicular manslaughter.
Tommy Lee and Heather Locklear have separated.
It's a degenerative bone disease.
Nikki Sixx has overdosed.
I know it's not gonna be easy, but I believe in you guys.
Also in the news, a couple of health scares. The former Gillian and Ozzy Osbourne guitarist Bernie Torme is extremely ill. According to loudersound.com, they say the family has said the guitarist has been rushed to the hospital suffering from virulent pneumonia in both lungs. So definitely say a prayer for Bernie Torme. Hope he gets better soon. And yeah, man, we just can't keep losing these guys. There's just not enough of our guitar heroes left around to keep losing dudes like this. Also, Lindsey Buckingham, he's recovering from open heart surgery. Also, during the surgery, it's reported that his vocal cords were damaged. I can only really guess what would have caused his vocal cords to be damaged during this procedure. I'm presuming it's probably something they put down his throat in order to, provide him with air. Probably damaged his vocal cords, and they can't say for sure yet whether the vocal damage is going to be permanent or not. So definitely wishing Lindsey Buckingham a speedy and full recovery. I hate to hear something like that. Of course, Lindsey Buckingham, longtime guitar player for Fleetwood Mac. Fantastic guitarist, great singer as well. He was let go of Fleetwood Mac not long ago because of yet another dispute between he and Stevie Nicks, reportedly. And this just coming on the heels of that is, I'm sure, pretty big blow to he and his family. So definitely wishing him a speedy recovery as well. In lighter news, check this guy out. This dude has performed the entire Bohemian Rhapsody Queen song using nothing but plucked notes on his guitar with chopsticks. Extremely interesting video. If you see what he does here, he actually is recording each and every note on the entire guitar, and then he puts it all together in editing. And he says, you know, this is the title of this is actually 1% guitar skills, 9% chopstick skills, and 90% editing skills. And what he's done is he's kind of made this almost like a MIDI track. So he's taken the samples of each, you know, sound on the entire guitar, and he's put all of this together and performed the entire song. You really have to see it to believe it. I can't play the whole thing here, but here's a taste. Definitely one of the coolest things I've seen in quite a while. You know, we often talk about negative stories and negative news, but I wanted to highlight something positive for a change. This is Martin Guitar giving a $5,000 grant to a Nazareth school. Of course, Nazareth is where they have their Nazareth, Pennsylvania, that is where they have their factory, and they've given the school 7 guitars and a $5,000 grant to help out with their music program at that school. Hugely cool of Martin. Hopefully, I'm sure other guitar companies are doing this as well. I know for a fact they are. There are lots of organizations that do things like this, and hopefully there's more of this. You know, it seems like every year we're hearing another story about some school having its music program cut, and it's just a total shame, because as we all know, anybody who's studied this knows that math scores, language scores all go up whenever schools have good music programs. Also in the news, if you guys remember, like I don't know, a couple weeks ago, I showed a Blake Shelton one-arm bandit machine at a casino, and said basically the only thing worse than sitting at a one-arm bandit and playing slots would be playing a slot machine that plays Blake Shelton songs back at me. So you all know how I feel about Blake Shelton. Well, this story kind of caught my attention because here is Blake Shelton singing Guitar Man with Elvis Presley during an all-star tribute. What I thought was interesting is this isn't one of those instances where they had the hologram of Elvis out on stage with Blake Shelton or anything like that. They didn't go to that extent. Although there are a lot of shows that are now incorporating such things like holograms of original artists on the stage, you know, dead artists and things like this, which is kind of cool. If Elvis was alive today, what would he say about this? Would he approve this? You know what I mean?
Oh, wait a minute, monster.
Maybe it will even draw him out of hiding if he's still alive. You know, I mean, he might say, "Hang on a second, guys. I'm not getting on stage with that guy." I think if I was, you know, really famous and I died famous, I might put a clause or something in my estate that says, you know, no appearing on stage with, you know, X, Y, Z, and just try to list out all the people I would never perform with, so that I didn't appear on stage. You know, Blake Shelton would probably be one of them. But, you know, that also brings up another interesting question. When speaking of the whole, you know, hologram performances and everything, at what point is it gonna become so good that you'll be able to, you know, completely replicate you know, a classic performance and send it on tour with, you know, an entire band in hologram form? And at what point will those actually sell tickets? I mean, you know, we talked last week about Paul Stanley and Kiss perhaps using some backing tracks, and other bands starting to use more and more backing tracks in their live performances, and it seems like audiences just don't care anymore that a lot of these bands are doing this, and they're still paying premium ticket prices for this sort of thing. So at what point, you know, will it become feasible and economical for somebody to send, like, you know, the Beatles, for instance, out on the road with like the rooftop performance, and every single one of the band members is in full hologram, you know, on stage? I mean, how cool would that be, for one? And you know, secondly, would the tickets even sell? How many people would go see something like that? I'd be interested to know how many of you guys watching this would go see something like that if it was available to you now. Like, Who, just pick a performance. Pick like Jimi Hendrix at Monterey Pop Festival or something like that. If you could go see a hologram of Hendrix, performing the same way he did at that festival on stage, would you go, and how much would you pay for a ticket to see something like that? I'd be really interested. Let me know down in the comments. Now, I wanted to move into a couple of serious subjects here to round out the news today. I saw this, and this kind of prompted me to thinking, this is about Ryan Adams being dropped by some guitar amp and pedal companies following sexual misconduct allegations. New York Times did a story on Ryan Adams saying that, a lot of these women were coming out of the woodwork accusing him of sexual misconduct in one form or fashion. And, I've long been an advocate of innocent until proven guilty on a lot of this stuff. Now, there's room for saying, to women who are accusing guys like this, that I don't doubt what you say, but at the same time, I'm not willing to quite crucify this guy publicly yet, without some evidence or without a court case or something like that to back it up. Because there have been a number of occasions where women or even men as well have actually lied about sexual misconduct and ruined somebody in the court of public opinion before all facts were even out, and it turned out later that it was a hoax. I'm not really jumping on board with the whole idea of believe all women all the time. At the same time, I don't want to disbelieve anybody. But it just got me thinking, to what extent do we sort of just turn our backs on somebody like this? Because what's happened here in his case is that he has lost... he's lost his endorsements through I think JHS Pedals, Walrus Auto, and Benson Amplifiers also have severed ties with Ryan Adams in the wake of this story. He's denying any claims that he perpetrated any sexual misconduct on anybody. One of the ladies who is his accuser, I think, was underage at the time, which is a whole nother thing, because underage girls at shows and the things that happen backstage with underage girls way back in the 70s has been kind of well documented. I think it's not talked about a lot, but I think Jimmy Page has been accused of such things, and a lot of other huge names from the 70s, 60s have been accused of sexual misconduct with minors during that whole heyday of the guitar god. And that certainly is a different climate now, and that sort of thing does not and will not fly, obviously. There was also a recent story about the guitarist for Panic at the Disco, who had a similar allegation lobbed at him. Now, what was interesting about this one, this happened back late last year, at the very end of last year, I think, in November or something like that, this came out. But the girl who accused him said she was 16 at the time, that he asked her for explicit images on, I guess, was it Snapchat or something like that. And she shared a lot of the actual communications, but at no point does she seem to tell him, that she is underage. And just from the pictures that I've seen of this girl, she doesn't look underage. So, it's hard to say in a situation like this who's in the wrong and who's in the right. But of course, when she comes out with something like this, an allegation, it just opens the floodgates, and then you get like 2 or 3 other girls after her saying the same sorts of things. And, none of those have seemed to at least have any corroborating evidence. So it's just like, it's the pile-on effect. It's one person steps through the door, and then the floodgates open, and then somebody is kicked out of a band. They lose all their endorsements. They practically lose their career. In a lot of cases, they'll lose their family as well. Their wife might divorce them, take their kids, and things like that. Somebody can get easily ruined by something like this. And I'm just curious, what do you guys think about this? I mean, I know I think it's important that the whole MeToo movement has happened, and that women have been given this voice and everything. I don't want you to mistake what I'm saying here, but there's a flip side to this. There are cases where it seems to have gone too far. Just in the case, for instance, of Louis C.K. Let's just take his case. He was accused of simply masturbating in front of a couple of ladies that volunteered to come to his room. So it was, in that case, they volunteered to come, they volunteered to stay. He didn't touch them. He just sat there and did what he did to himself while they were there, So it's kind of like, for them to come back later on and say, oh, you know, he had all this power over me and that's why I stayed and this and that, you know, maybe there's an argument to be made there, but you know, clearly he hasn't been charged with any kind of crime. It's not a crime, you know, to do what he did. They did volunteer to stay. So, you know, I just don't get the pile on sometimes, and I don't necessarily get how somebody can lose their entire career over things like this. And, you know, just what do you think? How far is too far? Do you think the Panic at the Disco guy deserved to be kicked out of the band? Do you think Ryan Adams deserves to lose all of his endorsements? Let me know down in the comments. I'd be interested to hear y'all's opinion. In other serious news, I really hate to say it, guys, I think it's probably about time we banned the guitar because it is a very dangerous assault weapon. Here's a story of a Boulder County man who choked a woman, struck her with a guitar, and also a Jello 12-pack. But yeah, as funny as that sounds, this actually is a fairly serious story. This guy just basically... he was kicked out of his house, I think, and this was his wife or his girlfriend. He was kicked out, and then he breaks back in, and she locks herself in a bedroom, and he chases her down and breaks down the bedroom door, and just beats her with a guitar. Throws I don't know what the deal is with the 12-pack of Jello cups. He threw Jello cups at her as well. But yeah, messed her up pretty bad apparently, and that's just a terrible story. But there's also this recent story about a music shop owner. There were some robbers who came in and smashed a guitar against his head and I guess stole the guitar. Apparently these aren't isolated incidents. Guitars are used as weapons a lot more than you might think. I did a story a while back, probably about a year ago, on One Shitpost Friday where I highlighted this kid who was defending himself actually from a guy who broke into his house while his mom wasn't home. He's like 14 years old or something, and this robber came in, I guess in a ski mask, and started going through all their stuff, and he comes out and he's got his guitar in his hand. He's going to beat the hell out of the guy. So, you know, I guess they can be defensive weapons as well. Guitars don't kill people, people do, I guess. But here's another one. This, let's see, Medalia woman, I guess this is in Australia somewhere maybe, charged after hitting a man with a guitar. And in this story, they even say, let's see, Marciela Rodriguez was charged with felony counts of assault with a dangerous weapon. A man reported he and Rodriguez were arguing and she hit him with an acoustic guitar multiple times. The man was bleeding from a gash on the head. He was taken to the hospital and needed a dozen stitches. Well, here's one. Man says he was assaulted with a guitar at a Wilkes-Barre punk show. And here's a big gash on his head. Here's one from Chico, California. Chico police arrested 29-year-old Jamie Harper after an investigation into an assault case involving a guitar. Harper, a transient, reportedly grabbed his guitar and began hitting the man with it. Here's another one where a biker gang, I guess in Australia, do you call them bikie gangs? B-I-K-I-E gangs? Pardon me, but that sounds gay.
We represent the bikie gangs.
Apparently this gang busted into this guy's house. They held a knife to his throat. One of the guys did, and another guy grabbed his guitar and started beating him in the legs with it, breaking his legs. And they were demanding drugs from this guy, which he says he didn't have.
I don't believe you.
Here's one from Adelaide. I think this is also in Australia. A teenager has been reported for aggravated assault after allegedly hitting another teen with a guitar at a western suburb school. So this one is even getting into the school system. So how long until there's like a mass guitaring at a school? Here's yet another one. A man had to have his ear stitched back on to his head after being hit with a guitar. Hit him so hard it took his ear off his head. Here's one where I think this is a reality TV star in the UK, was hit with a guitar case. A guy was trying to defend himself from an attack and I guess picked up a case to sling it at somebody, and he hit this girl instead. Here's an interesting one. A man jailed for assault with a guitar in Stroud Park. I'm not sure where Stroud Park is, but this one says a 45-year-old man smashed his classical guitar over a woman's head after he was refused a free lollipop. I'm not making that up. Refused a free lollipop. Here's a teen thug who scalped a female youth justice worker with a guitar in Malmesbury. Where the hell's Malmesbury? That's also in Australia. What the hell's up with Australian guitar attacks? Jesus. An out-of-control teen thug unleashed at least 11 attacks on detainees and staff before finally being banished from the juvenile justice system. The then 17-year-old brute was involved in a succession of serious assaults, but was not transferred to an adult prison until he scalped a female officer by smashing her over the head with a guitar. Wow. Just amazing. And I could have gone on and on with this. There's lots and lots of cases of people just getting scalped, getting beaten over the legs, having their heads, skulls broken, fractured, everything else with guitars. It's apparently it's becoming quite the epidemic. So I think we're going to have to ban these guitars. We're going to have to put some kind of locks on them or something. You know, lock them away from the kids so that they can't hurt themselves. All right, that's going to do it for the news. Okay, I want to end the Shitpost Friday with a very special. I want to end the Shitpost Friday with a very special message to Sean Lewis. Sean, if you're watching, and which I know you are, Sean. This message is for, yes, you, Sean Lewis from South Africa, right? I know you watch this channel, Sean. I know you watch and love my channel, Sean.
And I know you're here because I can smell your brains.
I'm in your head now, Sean. No, Sean, I just want to say happy birthday. Your significant other, Jean, or Jeannie, I guess it's Jean. Yeah, she said to give you a shout out and that you would get a kick out of it. So here's your shout out, Sean. Happy birthday, Sean. So that'll do it for Shitpost Friday. Hope you guys have enjoyed this one. If you have, please hit subscribe down below. Also, if you haven't already, go over to my second channel, Guitologist Channel 2. Hit subscribe over there. You know, I'll be dumping more and more stuff as time goes on. Sometimes I go a while not putting anything over there, but I think this weekend I've got enough material for Shitpost Friday to throw a Shitpost Friday bonus video over there. So definitely subscribe over there to check that out. And for now, y'all take care.